Hi guys, it's Kath. Today I'm showing you how I built this miniature 1:12 scale replica of the famous Herman Miller Eames lounge chair and ottoman. This iconic piece of furniture is timeless and looks amazing in so many interior design styles from classic to modern. I've always admired this piece and was so excited to build a miniature version. First, let me take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, Milo Notes. Milo Note is a tool for organizing your creative projects. I'm very much a visual thinker, so laying out my ideas like this really helps with project planning. You're able to collect and organize notes, images, videos, tasks, and so much more all in one place. This is my main board where I outline general steps, supplies I'll need, and inspiration pictures for today's project. I like to collect inspiration from various places on the web using the Milo Note web clipper. This makes saving images and links directly to my boards from any website super quick and easy. I'm able to pull in images from websites and even some that I've taken myself. Then when you're ready to share your work, you can invite your colleagues and clients to gather important feedback and collaborate with them real time. Finally, Milo Note is available for free and with no time limit. Sign up using the link in the description and start your next creative project. If you enjoy using Milo Note, let me know down below in the comments. Now let's jump into building this beautiful set. The best part of this project is that it uses simple craft supplies that are easy to find. For the main structural pieces, I'll be using these 1¼ inch wide craft sticks. Craft sticks come in so many different sizes. They're the biggest craft stick I own and are so versatile for many projects. The first thing I do is draw a 2¼ inch length on the stick. Then use a sharp utility knife to cut that length out. The easiest way to cut craft sticks is to cut on both sides of the wood and then snap it. I cut off all the sharp corners and sand them into smooth curves. This piece is going to be our chair's headrest. For the next piece, I first cut out a 4-inch length from the same craft stick. Place the headrest piece at the center of this one and trace it. Then on both of the sides, draw a curve down and outward to the end of the stick. They're like little wings at the end. I cut this piece out as well. Here's what it looks like after some sanding. For the wider areas like the seat, you're able to combine several pieces of wood together to form one piece. Next comes the fun part of bending this wood. The first thing I do is find an object that has a similar shape and size to the curve that we need. Just find anything around your house that's about 1¼ to 1½ inch wide. This ring box is covered in velvet, so I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap to make it waterproof. To make the wood pliable, I place them in a bowl and add some hot water. You can soak them overnight, but I like to soak my wood for several days if possible. After soaking, take your piece of wood and place it against your object. I use a lot of rubber bands to secure the wood in place and to put pressure on the areas that need to bend. The more rubber bands you use, the stronger the pressure will be and the more effective this technique will be. I also like using clamps to add even more pressure to the wood. I'm going to link a video down below that is super informative about the best techniques for bending wood and pretty much taught me everything I know. I will warn you now that not every single craft stick will cooperate. Depending on the grain size and direction, some pieces will simply just break or split. If you're experiencing a lot of splitting with your wood no matter how long you soak the wood for, here is another option. Instead of cutting the pieces and then soaking them, you're able to soak the entire craft stick prior to cutting out the pieces. These intact, longer pieces will allow you to have more leverage as you're bending the wood. To do this, I like to add a long piece of plastic packaging on top of the wood. When I bend the wood with this plastic, it helps evenly distribute the pressure and also helps prevent the wood from splitting. I add some rubber bands along the sides to keep the wood in place and add a clamp for pressure in the middle. Once the wood is fully dry, remove the clamp and the rubber bands. Then you'll have the perfect curve. I did this several times until I had at least 6 of these bent pieces. Just like the pre-cut pieces I showed you earlier, these non-cut ones can also be glued together to create a Y section. If you choose to use this technique, you'll just need to draw out the shapes for the different pieces. This big piece here is for the seat base. It's basically a rounded rectangle with wings on the end. I placed this template on the curved wood and traced the outline. Then I simply cut that shape out with a sharp knife and sand all the edges into smooth curves. Here are the 4 pieces you need to build a chair. This is the headrest, the seat back, the seat base, and the ottoman. This ottoman piece is the same as the seat base, but just without the wings. I have some areas that didn't line up perfectly, so I used some wood filler to fill in those gaps. Once the wood filler is dry, sand it to a smooth finish. Next, let's stain the wood to a gorgeous dark brown. To make an easy water-based wood stain, I simply mix some acrylic paint with a little bit of water. The paint I'm using here is in the color Burnt Umber. Mix that up until the paint is fully dissolved. Then simply paint the stain onto the wood. If you like a darker tone, you can add a second coat of stain after the first coat is dry. Next up are the cushions. For that, I'll be using these magic eraser sponges. You can use any sponge that you have. The first cushion I'll make is for the headrest. I trace the curve and the width of the wood onto the sponge. Then I cut the width out with my utility knife. This stuff cuts like butter. For the curves, I just slice the cushion along the outline we drew until we have the general shape. It doesn't need to be perfect. For the fabric, I'll be using this thin leather. You can also use vinyl, fabric, or fake leather. I just cut a piece of leather and wrap it over the piece of sponge that we cut. I like to cut strips at the corners to help lay the leather down smoothly. Then I use some Eileen's tacky glue to glue the leather to the sponge. I'm far from an expert in working with fabric, so this took a lot of trial and error. Once your cushion is done, you can place it against the wood to see if it's a perfect fit. This one looks great. Here is the seat base. It's helpful to place the cushion against the wood to make any additional cuts wherever necessary. Here I'm cutting off all the sharp corners at the edge of the seats. Now we can upholster this piece. Again, I glue the leather on using tacky glue. Back to our headrest. I'm going to add some tufting to match the real Eames chair. First, I grab a piece of scrapbook paper and glue it to the underside of the cushion. This is going to act as a sturdy foundation for our needle and thread. I'm just using a standard needle and black thread to do the tufting. I first make a note where I want the two tufted areas and then stick the needle through the back of the paper. Push the needle all the way to the front top side of the cushion. Then move the needle over a millimeter and stick it back through the cushion and through the paper. You'll see that once you pull on the thread, it will create a divot in the cushion. I made 2 of these divots on each cushion. Once you pull the thread to create the divot, simply turn the cushion around to the back side and tie a tight knot. I also like to add a drop of glue to that knot for extra reinforcement. Once the cushion is complete, you can glue it to the wood. This part is so satisfying because you're really starting to see the chair take shape. Now it's time for assembly. Here is the headrest and the seat back. The headrest sits on top of the seat back at a slight angle. To connect them, we'll need some hardware. To create that, I grab a standard popsicle stick. Split the popsicle stick in half lengthwise. We only need a short 2-inch section. Draw a slight angle onto the strip and cut it out. Also cut off the sharp ends. Then sand it all the way down until the areas are smooth. We need 2 of these. I paint them in black with some acrylic paint. Then glue them to the back of the headrest. Once the glue is dry, you can now glue the seat back to the bottom of these little hardware pieces. This already looks amazing. Next, we need the armrest, which will also act as the hardware to connect the seat back and the seat base. I use my miter shears to cut 2 lengths of popsicle stick that are 1.5 inches each. Glue them together at a 90-degree angle. Then I cover this piece with leather. The easiest way to do this was just to glue on one end first and then stretch the leather over the rest of the armrest. Cut off the excess leather with a sharp blade. For the sides, I just glue a piece of leather on, wait for the glue to dry, and trim off the excess. Very simple and easy. To ensure you get a clean cut, try to use a new blade whenever possible. I added a bit of black paint to the underside to camouflage the wood where I didn't add leather. You'll need 2 of these armrests. Glue 1 armrest to each of the wings on the seat base. As you can see, I make sure the wing is at the front edge of the armrest. Here's what it looks like with both armrests attached. Slide the seat back onto the armrest and glue it in place. Next, we need the swivel chair base. Grab another popsicle stick and draw the simple wedge shape. It's basically a thin rectangle with one side that's shorter than the other. Cut that out. I need 5 of these for the chair. Then grab a 1/8 of an inch round dowel and cut out a 3/4 inch length. I like to roll the dowel under my knife to score it all the way around and then snap the wood. Arrange the popsicle stick wedges around this dowel, evenly spacing them apart. Glue them on and you have the start of a beautiful swivel base. On the real Eames lounger, each of these spokes has a little stand. To make those, I cut 1/5 of an inch lengths from a toothpick. Glue 1 to the bottom of each spoke. It's these tiny little details that add so much to a miniature. To attach this to the bottom of the chair, we'll need to increase the top of this dowel area. For that, I grabbed this Dremel craft stick and punch a hole through it that's the same size as our dowel. If you don't have a hole punch, you can also use a drill. Then cut each of the sides off. I made Pac-Man cuts, but that's completely optional. Straight cuts would be just fine. Then glue this to the top of the dowel at an angle. This angle will allow the chair to have this backward leaning tilt. This is the swivel base for the ottoman. This attachment is glued flat down without any tilts. As you can see, this swivel only has 4 spokes instead of 5. Here is how the chair and ottoman will look on top of these swivel bases. Before we glue them on, let's first paint these black. I used acrylic paint, but a matte black spray paint will also look amazing. Last but not least, we need to finish the wood with a bit of varnish. I'm using polyacrylic, which is a water-based sealer. This brightens up the wood stain and adds a beautiful sheen to the finish. And that's it. This miniature Eames lounge chair and ottoman set is all complete. This piece was so much fun to put together and I love how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. I'll see you next time. Bye.